One of the biggest reasons people say it's better to buy than to rent is because you build equity. But you might be asking yourself, how can you get the most out of your property? My name's Christian Bachelder. I'm the co-host of Mortgage Mondays here on BiggerPockets and a mortgage broker with One Brokerage and partnered with David Green, the main host of the BiggerPockets podcast. This is Bigger Basics presented by Rent to Retirement. Today, I'm going to be diving into two tools that can help you access the equity in your home. Those two are cash out refinancing and HELOCs, otherwise known as home equity line of credits. If you aren't sure which option is right for you, this is the place to be. But before we get into all that, I want to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Rent to Retirement. Right now, Rent to Retirement is giving away tens of thousands of dollars in incentives when you purchase a new construction turnkey rental. Here are your options. You got four great ones. Up to $20,000 off your new construction rental property. Number two, you can get a 5% down payment credit. Number three, you can get an interest rate buy down to as low as 3.99%. Those are 2020 rates. Number four, you can get no money down on your next turnkey rental. Four really great options, guys. So don't wait. These offers won't last. To learn more, visit renttoretirement.com. Once again, that's renttoretirement.com. Or you can text REI to 33777. Once again, that's REI to 33777 to take advantage of these limited time incentives from our partners over at Rent to Retirement. All right, guys, so let's get into the meat on the bones here. First, let's talk about cash out refinances. Once again, we're going to break up both of these, cash out and HELOCs. I really want to start with cash out refinances, though. What is it? A cash out refinance means you are extracting equity compared to what your first loan was. So if your first loan, you got a $500,000 home and you still owe $200,000 on it, you have $300K in equity there. Now, while you can't go get 100% of it, no loan products allow you to finance 100% leverage, unfortunately. You can go get a solid chunk. You can go get 70, 75, 80%. So you can go grab a $200,000 cash out. And to break down these numbers, the house is worth $5. You already owed $200. You had a mortgage in place. You're now cashing out to a total loan of $400,000. So you're going to pay off the first two and you're going to pocket the other two. You will now have a new $400,000 loan that you move forward with, paying in perpetuity for 30 years. But you get $200,000 into your pocket, which that can be used for investments, that can be used for value out of that property, whatever you want to use it. But you successfully extracted equity out of that property. This process is very similar to the process that you did when you bought the property. It's a first position mortgage. It replaces your current first position. As we discussed, you lose that $200,000. So the downside there is you may lose a good interest rate there, but it's a long-term fixed rate loan. You get the entire amount up front. So it's not a line of credit. You get the entire loan amount up front. You get the money in your bank. You get rid of your first loan, and it's a fixed 30-year loan moving forward that replaces your first mortgage. Process, very much like when you bought it. You get documentation, you get bank statements, tax returns, pay stubs, all that good stuff. If it's conventional, if it's DSCR, we need the rent agreements. Whatever the case is, it mirrors the image of the first position purchase mortgage you got when you bought the property. It's the same thing. Okay. You're just replacing one loan with a new one. It's a little basics of cash outs. Now let's talk about the basics of HELOCs. Okay. A HELOC is a very different situation. A HELOC is exactly what the name entails. It's a home equity line of credit. Really those last three letters, line of credit. That means it is not a true loan. It's not just a loan where you get a lump sum and you pay it off over 30 years. It's more similar to the structure of a credit card where you can use it, you can pay it off, use it, pay it off, use it, pay it off. So it's not something that is just going to replace your first loan. Usually how people do this is in our same example as the beginning, you have a $500,000 mortgage, you have a $200,000 first loan on it. You can go grab a second position HELOC on it, which means you don't have to touch that first mortgage. So you can keep that 3% interest rate that so many of you guys have from COVID. Congrats on that, by the way. Never get rid of that. And you can just throw a HELOC after your first mortgage and cash out $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. That is still money that you can access. Once again, it's just like a credit card. You can draw from it and you can pay it off. It's not a fixed loan. The difference of how these are structured, though, is pretty substantial when compared to cash outs. These are typically broken up into a draw period. That's just a fancy term. All that means is that's when you can use it. Okay, so that's when your credit card has an active line of credit that you can draw from. Okay, that's your draw period. And then usually 5, 10, sometimes 20 years later, 10 is the most common one, it will convert to a repayment period. All that means is that's the section now where you cannot draw from the line anymore. They take a snapshot in time of what you owe, and then they develop a period, usually the final 20 years, where you pay back that amount. Now you can always refinance it. You can get a new HELOC at that time. But if you just kept the initial agreement, you would now no longer be able to draw from it, and you would have a payback agreement of what you owe over the remainder of the term. So really getting into the comparisons, the pros and cons of both of these. The pros of a cash out is that it's lump sum. It's also typically a fixed interest rate. So you can get your money up front. You don't have to deal with draws and lines of credit and all that stuff. No bank processing. You get your money right now. It's also on a fixed long-term interest rate. So if you're planning on using that money as a down payment for a new property, or something that you plan on leaving out there for quite some time, usually I recommend a cash out, because fixing in that debt is your biggest advantage. Right? You're not having it adjust on you. You're not having it be called due. You're not having the draw period and the repayment period. It's just fixed. You know what you're going to pay. It's guaranteed. You have a commitment from the bank, right? So if you're planning on executing long-term debt, it's usually the way that I would advise. The benefit of HELOCs is they're really good for short-term products, short-term projects, short-term renovations, right? So if you're thinking of coming into a property, drawing from your HELOC to do 15, 20, 30K of renovations, and then using the money from that property to pay back your HELOC, that's a perfect time to use it, right? Because your HELOC, just like a credit card, can be drawn and paid off. And the nice part is when it's paid off, you don't have a payment, just like you don't have a payment on your American Express credit card when you don't have a balance. Another comparison is what they cost to originate. Originate just means get started. And typically the cost of a cash out is going to be slightly higher, because remember, the bank is giving you the lump sum money up front. So they make some money there, right? When they transfer those funds. A HELOC is typically a little bit cheaper to finance, but depending on the source of the capital, could absolutely come with a cost. HELOCs aren't just freebies that you have thrown on your property at no expense. The bank still charges something to set them up. So just keep in mind, if you are comparing the two, don't just compare what the monthly payments are going to be or their amortization periods or all the things that we just discussed. Discuss the cost too, right? Understand what you're paying in order to access either the cash out or the HELOC. Flexibility is another good thing to talk about. Cash outs don't have a whole lot of flexibility. You get the loan, you pay that loan. What you're giving up in flexibility, you're gaining in consistency. You know what you're getting. You know your fixed payment. You know your fixed interest rate. You get all the money in your bank account day one. You don't have to worry about getting draws. It's consistent. It's stable. You know it. You lose out on the flexibility of the HELOC though. HELOC, where you can draw and pay off as time goes along, you can kind of custom tailor your HELOC to help you accomplish whatever your short-term goals are, whether that's in real estate or just personal finance. So that's kind of nice. In terms of qualifying, right, both of these things, they'll typically land in the same realm. Usually most loan products want to see, on a minimum credit scores around 620 to 680. HELOCs will typically have a higher cutoff because they are a second position loan. There's a little bit more flexibility for lower credit on cash outs versus HELOCs. With any loan product, really you want to see you being 660, 680 plus, because that's when you get better pricing, especially once you get into the 700s, right? Also, in the lines of qualifying, depending on what loan product it is, almost across the board, HELOCs are always going to be full doc. That means there's no like DSCR HELOC, for those of you familiar with our DSCR products. HELOCs require your debt to income. They require your tax returns. They require a debt to income ratio. They require a good credit score. They require you to have some sort of income that you generate, whether it's self-employment or W-2 salary, right? There's got to be something there that we can calculate a debt to income. Cash outs, just like you guys have heard us on Mortgage Mondays, all of the loan products can apply for a cash out. That could be a DSCR cash out where the property qualifies. That could be an FHA cash out. That could be a conventional cash out. So in terms of robustness or access to equity that you may have, there's definitely a bigger realm in the cash out side of the argument for getting access to those funds, whereas HELOCs are much more rigid. They qualify with income across the board. So flexibility underwriting wise definitely favors the cash out side of the argument. Both of these would come with like the risk of foreclosure, right? You want to make your payments. If you're taking debt out on property, guys, make your payments. Both of these have foreclosure rights against your house. So you don't want to default on any debt, whether it's cash out or HELOC. On the topic of HELOC too, this is one that most people won't talk about. There's a big con in my mind with HELOCs just regarding temptation. When you get a cash out refinance, you get all the money up front, you establish your monthly payment, you know what you get. With a HELOC, it's like having a really, really high balance credit card. I can just imagine, the not well disciplined 20-something-year-old that's, having a bachelor party in Vegas and he's got a credit card with a $200,000 balance. That could get dangerous. right? And that's basically what a HELOC is. It's a really high balance credit card. So just the fact that you can easily access funds there that are typically much better interest rates than a credit card, HELOCs are 8 to 10% instead of 35% that your Visa's at. Just the fact that you have what sounds like not terrible interest so easily accessible to you, it can be dangerous. So if you're getting a HELOC, just make sure that you're being honest with yourself, that you're discussing the discipline that should be coming partner with that HELOC, right? You got to make sure that you're putting yourself in a good headspace, just because I don't want to get people HELOCs to have them max it out and not benefit financially for it. Understanding all these, it really comes down to what questions would I ask you to help you choose what you want, right? Which one is right for you guys? We gave a really big description, but I gave my pieces of advice, but really summarizing it all down. So if you only listen to one part of this video, this is what I want you to listen to. Are you financing long-term debt? Are you okay with some variability and some dynamicism within your monthly payments? Are you comfortable with higher interest rates? And ultimately, what's your payment plan for this? If you're a flipper, if you're renovating properties, I love HELOCs because you can flip the property, place long-term financing on that property, and pay off your HELOC, just like I would a credit card. You pay with it, you pay it off. You pay with it, you pay it off. That's where HELOCs thrive. There's a lot of advice and guidance out there saying max out the HELOC on your primary residence to go put a down payment on an investment property. I don't love that. I don't love that you're basically 100% financing an investment property, right? You're getting probably an 80% first mortgage and using your HELOC for the 20% down portion, which means you're 100% leveraged on that property. And placing 20% of your down payment on variable higher rates that are not a fixed expense just adds a higher degree of danger, in my opinion, to your investing strategy, especially when you start compounding on. Because then if you take a HELOC from that investment property and buy another one, and then a HELOC on that one and buy another one, now you start to get into this cycle, this revolving variable interest rate debt that if everything adjusts up, all of your mortgages are increasing and all of your global cash flow is dropping. I think that's more dangerous than disciplined saving, disciplined investing, fixed rate financing. Is just going to put you in a better position fundamentally wise to succeed. Doesn't mean I haven't seen people be successful using HELOCs for down payments though. Happens all the time, just especially for the first time buyer. I think you should be careful. Well, there you have it, guys. I appreciate you guys watching. This was Christian, broker here at the One Brokerage, acting as a lone wolf today without David Green. But this has been Bigger Basics. Thank you so much for watching. You can search me up on BiggerPockets. Once again, huge thank you out to our friends at Rent to Retirement for making this video possible. I hope this helps you guys get the most out of your equity. And on that topic, if you're looking to try to acquire some equity, please go check out our friends over at Rent to Retirement. They're really doing some cool stuff over there, especially with all these new incentives they're giving out. Go check them out, guys. They got some really cool things going on. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you can make sure you get notified when our next video rolls out, whether it's on Mortgage Mondays, Bigger Basics, or anything BiggerPockets related. Stay in touch, guys. Stay notified when we're doing our new stuff. We're working on a lot of cool stuff out here. I'll see you next time. This has been Christian with the One Brokerage signing off. Appreciate you guys.